Hello, and welcome to an adventure like no other. Far more than what you have known, there is something far more to be known than you can ever know. And it is all about you, the real you, your real awareness with your intuitive senses. You were never taught that the real you, your real awareness, is operating 5 bodies in cause and effect, restricting creation. You have been taught to think that you are only a one-dimensional human person, with a mind and emotions, and with a very short lifespan on this planet Earth. More than what your mind can grasp is your intuitive senses that can be opened to see beyond all your restrictions. You have always had an opening to see beyond what you have known, and this has been purposely kept from you, and this is where you have heard rumors and stories about your nightly dreams. Your so-called dreams is your opening to your intuitive senses that will allow you, the personal you, to excel beyond what you have previously known. Everyone has intuitive senses, and very few people take advantage of what is possible by recognizing something more than their mind can understand. Creation has its place for all of us, and then there is all life, which is far more than anything than what can become with creation. Everything we experience is necessary for us to survive with whatever we choose and decide our life to be. New Kevin Smith is the great witness to something more than what can be taught and learned in any school. It can be so that when anyone first listens to Kevin's intuitive side experiences, also known as real side experiences, from what their personal mind has known, Kevin's manner of expression will at first be rather different to comprehend. This is where this introduction and reading the new books and Facebook groups will help. Have fun deciding. Duane the Great Writer and Seer.
Prior to the real side experience I will be recounting, I would find myself in a state of awareness that bridges between the physical level, where awareness operates through the physical body vehicle, which affords the simulation of the physical level as decoded from the consciousness containing the ideas of it, and the real side, where awareness is liberated from the physical body and the physical level view it provides, and potentially anywhere multi-dimensionally of creation can we experience. As in actuality, the awareness that we are, that all life is through all consciousness-affected dimensional positions, and it's just according to where we place a focus and intent as to the extent to which we limit ourselves creationally, or if we allow ourselves full creational access. The state bridging the two positions, physical level and real side, I refer to as the in-between state, and although the physical level will present as the overall scene, elements and features of the real side that are present in their own respective other dimensional real side positions will be as though isolated and bleed over onto the physical level. And in actuality then, this in-between state position is another means by which ideas, agreements, and other body types impacting our experience can be brought to our attention, as though the guides have isolated certain of these ideas I need be made aware of. The guides will capitalize on how each individual has uniquely set themselves up through their consciousness, that the process the guides take us each through is tailor-made for us. For indeed, from my astral projection and meditation days, was the utilizing of this between state a standard practice, that of putting thought and emotion aside, but remaining on the threshold of the real side, without fully switching to it and vacating the physical level, an ingrained practice seemingly that will manifest of its own automatic accord relatively frequently, that, as I said, the guides will take advantage of as another mechanism by which they can avail my personal self of that which it needs be made aware of. On a recent real side experience, I shared how an ethereal type being would engage with me, gleaning my agreement to assist him with releasing associates of his that were trapped, and that his initial means of contact was enveloping my body form in his ethereal, ghost-like essence. That experience had occurred on the real side, and here I would be in my between state, and a similar interaction would be taking place. For I would be in my tent on the Mexican ranch, and within the between state, with the physical level incorporating my tent as the overall scene, I would become aware of the presence of another body form pressing upon me. Although visually nothing could be discerned as a featuring on the physical as a real side bleed over, the form was able to exert a force, as though it had mass and density despite being invisible, for I could feel it pressing upon me, and the sensation of it nudging my neck with what seemed very much to be a snout, not unlike that of, say, a dog's. Impressions revealed this was a body form where the secondary personal self had been established, as opposed to, say, an animal form that is animated directly by real awareness prior to the formulation of the free will utilizing a personal self. So the sense was of a kind of wolf body type, and impressions further suggesting one that was not of an ill-intended proclivity, as though it were trying to get my attention, just as the ethereal being from the real side experience I shared before had. Although nothing could I discern as to its motivations or exactly what it required, and I rather would pull slightly from the in-between state, that I more so was fully operating through the physical body form, that the real side bleed over that this being was would withdraw. It was still there in reality, as everything is, in the nowness of the isness, but fully locked into the physical body, physical level affording mechanics, so my view would be limited to the densest life level. However, as I began to return to the in-between state, as we all naturally will do before we vacate awareness from the physical body, and our view repositioned multi-dimensionally, though I have the practiced habit of prolonging the state between the two, as I said, so the form would return and once again press against me and nudge my face with what felt like a snout. This would go on for a time, my withdrawing from the between state, which negated my ability to interact with this form that was other dimensionally operating, returning to it, and only to have it nudge me again, but with each round, so I was no closer to determining what the form wanted, whatever it was, invisible, as I said, other than the force it could exude. Eventually I would vacate the physical level proper and be operating on the real side, and oftentimes in situations such as this, we then will have revealed to us the body forms that were the bleed-overs, as we were positioned with our awareness between the physical and real side, and now on the real side we can ascertain as to their intentions, etc. But alas, The body form was not present in the scene I was in, so I just chalked it up to an anomaly, perhaps just a body form that was curious. For as we proceed with our awareness process, many body types are drawn to us through the real is-light we are embodying and are motivated to initiate contact in whatever ways they might. Some may simply want to observe, others may attempt to glean our attention, but then seemingly not follow through with exactly what it is they desire. Very likely they didn't know, as most in the simulators will have no inkling as to what they are actually doing, and indeed the purpose that their creational situations serve, that of a comparative tool for is recognition, etc. For the scene I now found myself in would be my recreated former UK residence, and should we find ourselves in our recreated houses on the real side, this represents the consciousness. And just as the consciousness comprises of every idea agreement that has affected every lifetime and circumstance throughout our tenure in the simulator, so then will our consciousness representing houses contain all these ideas additionally, and revealed to us can be all the body forms we have agreement with, consciously or subconsciously, as they will be able to feature in our recreated homes. A body form as effected from a consciousness will be an idea as any other, which can only feature in our experience if it is installed in our consciousness, that it can then be present within the walls of the consciousness representing home. Specifically, I would be on the top floor, which represents the dimensions of life other than the physical being represented by the ground floor, and in my company would be several individuals that impressions revealed were those on their respective processes of awareness. Agreement thereby extended to them, but agreement I was not conscious of personal self-wise, hence they being present on the top floor, for indeed I had no personal self-recognition as to their identities. It seemed we had an objective that, positioned in a very hazardous area of creation, was a young boy, and we were to locate him and ensure his safer passage to another creational position where he no longer would be in peril. Oftentimes on the real side, certain individuals will be identified as those being of value in regards to key operations or projects, and depending on if they have begun their own awareness processes or the extent by which they have progressed with such, determines the level of protection they are afforded. In reality, as the deciders of our experience, others can only have a detrimental bearing on ourselves if we have the idea agreements in relation to them installed in a consciousness that allow that they can. For our experience and in relation to others is strictly dependent upon the precise ideas we have agreed with. We are the makers of our movies, and others can only assume roles within them according to our dictates. Throughout our lifetimes in the simulator, every interaction we have with others must be as an agreement idea that effects it to be so, and not only are the ideas of others then a consciousness placed, but also the parameters and limits by which they can impact ourselves. We have then a consciousness veritably bursting with the ideas of others and their ability to impact our body forms according to the nature of the agreements we have in association with them. That at any moment potentially the individuals that we have agreements with of a nature where they have the ability to exact harm upon us or destroy us can enter our experience, physical level and real side and do just this. The process of awareness is a facing and releasing of all idea agreements of the consciousness that gradually renders us immune to the abilities of others to be able to harm us as they once were able. But when it comes to key individuals in regards to projects and endeavours that are life benefiting, if they have not begun their own processes of awareness, or perhaps have, but only have progressed so far, they will have much by way of agreements as yet unreleased, including those as extended to others, and where they are more vulnerable then to attacks, etc. For of course, much of our galactic enterprises represent an undermining of the established control systems, as we ultimately seek to not only improve simulator circumstances for all, but to present every being with the means of creational extrication. For it is agreement through the dark force managed overall consciousness that effects and maintains the dark force's control systems, and as the process of awareness taken on is a releasing of all agreements, including those extended to the dark forces, so they will be swift to attack, intimidate, and destroy any body form who presents as a threat to the control of the simulator they are seeking to retain. For if they hesitate in their attacking efforts, and their target progresses with their agreement facing and releasing awareness process to the extent that they become beyond the controller's ability to harm, then the dark forces have lost their opportunity window by which they have the best chances of discouraging, harassing, harming, or destroying the individual before they pose as a serious threat to their simulator control. This boy, then, although little was revealed as to the specifics, was another key individual, but seemingly, as impressions revealed, he hadn't as yet embarked on his own ears recognizing a journey, but had a vital part to play in what is to unfold, galactically and life beneficially speaking. And as he hadn't then even commenced with the facing and releasing of the agreements of consciousness, as the awareness process involves, he was very susceptible to dark force impact. For practically every individual in the simulator will have a designed consciousness which overall is as agreement to the dark force's power, which translates as the dark force's ability to at any moment destroy any individual as they see fit. But as the architects of our experience, we not only extend the role of destroyer and abuser that others can assume through our agreements, but we can afford the roles where others can assist or interject positively in our affairs. And so we can assume these roles as rescuers and assistance providers within the parameters of the agreements that the individual provides. And this was the case here, that the dark forces, the group and myself were limited to the decisions as made by the boy in regards to our actions in relation to him. The dark forces wanted to destroy him, We wanted to rescue him and relocate him to a safe position, and what transpired would be according to the boy as the decider of his experience. As I said, it seemed he was currently in a very forbidding area of creation, as though placed there by the dark forces that greater ease of his eradication could be so. The group and myself would relocate from my house directly into the boy's presence. He was human in appearance, of the approximate age of 10 by my estimation, and the scene we were in, where he had been placed and resigned to, absent of our intervention, comprised of darkness overwhelmingly, black hills as a backdrop, and where we were standing with the frightened child would be a graveyard of such a design as those you might see as depicted in horror movies, styled to incite as much fear as possible. We would begin to escort the boy through the gloomy scene, but would immediately be under fire from what seemed to be snipers. They intended to hit the boy, but the group and I were viable targets also. On the real side, any projectile tends to represent ideas, and should the projectile hit the target, this indicates agreement to the idea that the projectile represents. For indeed, the effect of another individual killing me is an idea I must agree with. Literally, a bullet cannot hit home unless I am in agreement with my demise at the hands of the individual who fires it. It was as though then the dark forces were tormenting and instilling fear in the boy through the frightening position they had placed him, as this is their general inclination and thrill, that of torture and abuse, but eventually had the intention to eliminate him, through his agreements as yet unfaced and released, that allowed this to be. But the group and I had arrived to intervene just in time, and a little like in the Matrix movie, where Neo and his associates can duck, dodge, and evade every bullet, with the real awareness's oversight of every creational idea as part of the isness everything that animates through all consciousness affected form and feature, so the real awareness can read every idea potentiality, including the path every bullet or idea will take, and the simulated forms the real awareness operates will be animated that they evade every adversity, environmentally or body form orientated, and in this case, so the group and I were in no peril from the array of dark force agent sniper assassins, and we additionally ensured the boys' safety. Navigating through what transpired were an endless series of graveyards shrouded in blackness and constantly under fire. Eventually the scene would transition to another, though no less hostile, as we proceeded to remove the boy from an overall position in creation that was one of the domains of the dark forces. It can be so on such real side endeavours that we simply secure our target, the one we are rescuing, and relocate them to safe haven, but certain rescue efforts present as more arduous, all according to the agreement placement of the one we are rescuing. As the decider, we are really playing their simulated game, so to speak, according to their parameters. And in this case, we were resigned to having to laboriously escort the boy through this dark area of creation and the various obstructions it presented as. For the dark force beings positioned there were adamant in reclaiming and destroying their prize, the gifted and key child we were extracting. We had to now traverse through a series of chambers. That which was transpiring within was the stuff of nightmares, as though we were navigating through hell itself, or the lower astral, with all the various twisted beings it contains. For indeed, we had to fend off continuous attack from all manner of distorted body types, of demonic, reptilian, and shadowy entity-like forms, as they attempted to lay hands on the boy. For as I mentioned, what can transpire between body forms is dependent on agreement in relation between them. If I harbour no consciousness-installed agreement that a being can harm me, then despite their might of a form and the capability they can wield, they will be unable to adversely impact myself in any way. That as the group and myself lacked agreements in relation to all our ill-intended assailants, in regards to their ability to harm us, so they were unable. And yes, they could have harmed the boy, but he had extended agreements where we could effectively protect him from this being so. In this particular instance, our successful repelling of our would-be assailants through the agreements we lacked in relation to them, expressed as our having firearms that were specifically designed where the slaying of demons and all things twisted and untoward was concerned, and we carved our way through the creatures as they were met with the instant reflected effects of their abrasiveness. A tunnel we currently were in would reveal an opening up ahead, our exit, and we eventually tumbled out into the light of day, having managed to traverse through the hellish realm, with the boy still safe in our keeping. The scene now was of a street setting. There would be other individuals present, most of which appeared human, but were more as bystanders than having the inclination to attack us also. It was as though we were gradually transitioning from where the creational area we were in was the most darkest, from the forbidding graveyard through the hell realm, to now a street setting, where the humans present were undoubtedly those that were fully consciousness personal self immersed, fully agreeable to the consciousness managing controllers then, reminding me a little of the Matrix movie scenes, where within the various programs are the oblivious, though dark force acquiescent, general public. These one-dimensional humans, just as oblivious, and just like in the Matrix movie, where the agents operate among the drone-like human slaves, so scattered among these humans in the street scene were still further demonic-like characters, though unseen by the humans present. Just as it is on Earth, where behind the surface one-dimensional fronts are the monsters running the show. These demons were motivated to attack us also, their primary objective to try and seize the boy, but we still were armed with our trusty demon blasters, and they would suffer the same instant karmic backlash as their other antagonistic cohorts. One demon in particular reminded me of the arch-enemy of He-Man from the animation and movie Masters of the Universe, for only his head would be visible, bundled in thick robes as he was, and a head that comprised of a leering, fleshless skull. But anyway, we would nullify every demon that attempted to seize the boy, and now our journey from this overall dark force dimensional position would take us to a kind of high-tech sci-fi city, and this would be our means of extracting the boy and removing him to safety. For now, another individual that appeared human, wearing a sleek metallic, though a malleable outfit, would gesture that we follow him. We would do so, and be ushered inside his vehicle, which appeared as a kind of a mini spacecraft, hovering several feet from the ground. It was, however, not designed for space flight, only as a means of a transport through the sci-fi city, and with the group, myself, and the boy aboard, he would direct his hovercraft onto what served as the city's highways, where his design of transport seemed standard, and we would be transported at breakneck velocity along the highways, surrounded by the futuristic-looking high-rise buildings that predominated the city. Our driver was rather reckless, a road hog, as the expression goes, and in this sci-fi city, rather than honk horns as a means of warning, so here the preferred method was to actually blast other reckless road users with inbuilt vehicle lasers. The lasers were not designed to damage or destroy, but they rather would cause a momentary buffeting of the vehicle they had impacted as a means of warning or expressing irritation. The hovercraft vehicles themselves were virtually indestructible, as our driver would barge through other road users with no damage to his craft or theirs, simply receiving the various buffeting as they unloaded their lasers on him. Regardless, our driver would ensure our swift, if not reckless, passage through the city, and although the experience ended there, impressions suggested that where our ride terminated, whoever the human individual was that was affording us this assistance, so the position he had taken us to, would represent safety for the key and essential in regards to the galactic beneficial developments boy we had rescued from the clutches of the dark forces.
Okay, that's another part of the opera, isn't it, Kevin? And yes, in the beginning there, when you're getting nudges from whoever or whatever body type, we go to the basics, don't we? Because people need a reference. So we put out the idea as an example of the new presentation, and it's like, what is that? And so just like when I was in Eckankar, the idea is we even made the management made bumper stickers that said, what is Eckankar? Because people were asking the question all the time. So people need a reference. So we start off with the books or whatever we do, and like the intuitive seeing sessions, etc. We provide something, reading material, or we sit there and explain to them. But the best is some type of reading material, because explanation is one thing, but when they actually have something in their hand, and this is what worked best for Paul, because the books were physical in those days. And when a person has a physical book, it's just like anything else they own, because this is a physical world. And so today, the easiest for us is to send PDFs or whatever, but just by putting it in print helps out a whole lot, etc. So it's just a lot easier to do that. So again, we are the presenters. And so whoever comes up, we do the best we can to start them off with some kind of simple presentation, because there are those that sense what we're doing, but they still can't figure it out for the most part. And you have to understand that also, because you have to really understand this, because I look at all the people that have done this for years and years and years, and most of them, they still don't get it. Okay, they get parts of it, they have the knowledge or whatever, but not the real essence of it. And so there is a lot to understand in the creation mode alone. And that's why you're going through these experiences, not only for yourself, but to share with others, to show them that there's just a whole lot to go through, more so than you just thinking that you know something. You see, getting people past that literal part where they think they know something, etc. That's really a toughie. Into being objective about what they have experienced, that becomes a difference. And to understand that, that's a whole lot. So I meet people all the time in situations, and as I see someone, if I'm walking on the road and someone's coming towards me, for my little personal self, I'll say something like, okay, well, let's see who this is. Okay, let's see if they say hi or hello, or we stop and talk. Let's kind of see who this is. So my position, I've decided for myself, is to be ready to help others. That's the whole idea. It's not about, oh, I don't like meeting new people. I don't know what to say. I'm embarrassed. I'm too tall. I'm not good enough. All these little ideas that we've incorporated in ourselves are really nonsense. It's time to step up and be like the sun shining and be ready for whatever takes place. But then again, that next person has to take the initiative, because just like the sun shining, we have to decide to walk outdoors, don't we? The sun's not going to drag us outdoors. So we can stay in the house and think, oh, gee, well, why isn't the sun shining here? Well, the sun is not going to break down the walls and shine. No, we have to walk outside the walls. So again, that's why we're doing what we're doing, and to be ready for that. But again, the important part is that as these people step up, be ready to help them in some way, be creative. And also, it's a good idea to use humor also, because that breaks the ice. So again, I don't know what the person's going to say. I don't know what they're going to do, but I make myself ready to do whatever. And then when I do get the chance to talk to people, boy, do I give it to them. So again, usually they walk away, and many times they don't want to see me again, etc. They kind of avoid me. I see this, but that's okay, because they need time to assimilate certain things. You have to see that. You have to understand that. So you have to recognize your position and get out of yourself, get out of your old thinking, and be new. Be a being of light now, like the sun shining, with no attitudes, and be ready to help everyone, because that's what all life is. We all assist each other, being awesome and wonderful. Yes, thank you, Kevin. That's great. All of it's needed. Thank you.